y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. This channel is dedicated to finding out whether I really do know it all or not. Make sure you subscribe and definitely make sure you ask questions in the comments. Speaking of which, today is a little bit different. Today is lightning round. My wife, I gotta give her credit. Thank you, Lane, for doing all this work. She has pulled out 10 questions that you guys have asked, and they're shorter questions, so I'm going to read the card. See if I can say that. I'm going to read the card, and then the answer is printed on the back. So these will be kind of like fast answers, and I believe there's 10 of these guys. So I'll put like the right answers in one pile and the wrong in another, and we'll see how I do at the end. Good luck to me, right? Okay, question number 1, which you actually may be able to see the answer to back there. What does the RC stand for in RC car? I believe that is radio controlled. Let's find out. Ah, radio controlled. That's right. There you go. That was a nice simple one. See? One question down. That goes in the correct pile. All right. Oh my goodness. Rogaine was originally developed for what? Well, I certainly know what it's used for now, which is like hair stuff. I'm going to say it was for eczema, like a skin condition or something like that. I do not know the answer, so let's see how I did. Oh, it was for high blood pressure. Goodness gracious. That was my next guess, actually. It seems like everything was like Viagra was developed for high blood pressure, so why not Rogaine also, right? Okay, that goes in the wrong pile. Next one is, how was Autotune invented and what was the technology originally used for? So I believe it was originally a Pro Tools plugin, or at least it was developed by a company that was for Pro Tools in the mid-90s. And of course it was developed to correct people's pitches, like if a singer was off by a little bit, they could fix it and so forth. Famously in Cher, and I can't remember the year, 95, 96, somewhere in that range, Cher released her single, Do You Believe in Life After Love, which had auto-tune in it, and that caused a huge sensation, and then everybody wanted to do auto-tune. So it was used for a very different purpose. It was kind of overdriven for that. Okay, it's detecting pitch, autocorrection, intended to disguise or correct off-pitch inaccuracies. Yep. Got that one right. So there we go. Put that in the correct pile. Anyway, you learned a little extra too about Cher and Life After Love, because that was a very famous song that used auto-tune to do what it was supposed to do. Takes time to believe it. Oh, this is a fun one. Okay, what were the names of SpaceX's Starship and Super Heavy before they were that name? Okay, so currently, Starship, I'll put up a picture of it, at least as far as it's been built to this point. Starship existed in many incarnations. I believe it was originally the Mars Colonial Transport way back when it was announced in like 2012. It was a long time ago. And then it became the ITS, which was the Interplanetary Transport Shuttle, something like that. And then, of course, very famously, it became the BFR, which everyone says is Big Falcon Rocket, but you know just exactly what F means instead of Falcon there. So, yeah, it's a family-friendly channel, so I'll leave that out. But, okay, Mars Colonial Transport, check. Interplanetary Transport System, check. Big Falcon Rocket, also known as the Big Effing Rocket. So there you go. Yeah, good for me. Don't ask me questions about SpaceX. I know the answers to those questions. Next time, ask me about full flow engines or something like that. Oh, all right. This is a fun one. Did Sean Connery do the opening shot scene in Dr. No? In other words, the one where it goes, and that answer is no, he did not. There's an interesting little story that goes with this. It was either his stunt double or his body double, and I can't remember his name. I'll put his name down there underneath at some point in post-production. But he did the opening shot. It was, I believe, a last-minute decision that was made because they needed some sort of cool opening for Dr. No. And, of course, to hire Sean Connery back to do something like that was very expensive. So, anyway, they hired this other guy, his body double, to do it, and he just walked up and went like that. And, interestingly, the shot was done. It was not a special effects shot in the sense that we have modern special effects shots. It was a old-school special effects shot. The director of photography took a pinhole camera, which is just literally a pin in a box, and he stuck it at the end of a gun barrel and like did that. So it was like that little, eye thingy that's shooting down there. So actually the body double did Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Goldfinger. Those three movies are not Sean Connery. So Thunderball, which was the fourth James Bond movie, was the first one that Sean Connery does. And you can see that because he actually crouches down and he looks like he's about to fall over. I always think it's so awkward. Like they could have found a better shot than that because he's kind of like wavering after he does the shot. That is definitely in the correct pile. Okay. I don't even know how to answer this question. What is the secret to figuring out women? I don't know. If I had the answer to that question, I would be a very wealthy person. How's that for an answer? Go ahead, answer this one, Dr. Know-It-All. We're all waiting. Yeah. See, I would be a wealthy person. I'm going to say that is in the correct pile because there ain't no way to figure out women. So there you go. Oh my gosh. Talk about politically correct or incorrect or something. Yikes. Okay, back to more factual questions. What are the first lines of A Tale of Two Cities? Ooh, Charles Dickens. So, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Oh, gosh, and then there's all these contrasts. It was like the age of reason, it was the age of incredulity, it was the king was on the throne and the people, oh gosh. Well, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I know that, and then it was like all these dichotomies that happened for like a paragraph. So, let's see. Oh, wow. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epic of belief, it was the epic of incredulity, it was the season of light, it was the season of darkness, it was the spring of hope, it was the spring of winter. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven, we were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in the superlative degree of comparison only. Wow. There you go. I did not know all of that, but I definitely had the correct first line, so I'm going to give myself credit for that one. Okay, what is differential privacy? There's two possibilities. One is this is a psychology term, and the other one is it's a tech term, as in people get differential privacy based on their, authorities and so forth within that. I have a feeling this is more of a psychology term, however. I'm going to go with the fact that people have different expectations of privacy depending on their position or rank in life. I have a feeling I'm wrong on this one. Let's see. A system for publicly sharing information about a dataset by describing the patterns of groups within the dataset while withholding information about individuals in the dataset. Dang it. I actually was more correct. I think I outguessed myself. That goes in the wrong pile, but I definitely was thinking in the right way. I just kind of second guessed myself that was a psychology term and not a tech term. Okay, next question. Ooh, what year was the Magna Carta written in? That is the English predecessor to the American Constitution and a lot of other democracy, documents. Oh man, it was a long time ago. It was in the Middle Ages, like 1249, something like that. Hopefully, maybe I give myself 15 or 20 years in there. So I'm going to say 1249 and let's see how I did. 1215. Wow, even earlier than I said. I don't know. I was in the correct century, which I feel like is pretty reasonable for that. I don't know. That kind of goes in the so-so category. All right, finally, last question, number 10. Another James Bond question. Who was the actor with only one James Bond film to his name? Ooh. That would be George Lazenby. He did On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think everybody else, yeah, even Timothy Dalton has more James Bond movies to his name. So this was, I believe, 1969 when he did this movie, and Sean Connery had done up through You Only Live Twice, and then he was like, no mas, right? He was like, I'm not going to do any more James Bond movies. They hired George Lazenby to do it. There's one little line at the beginning of the intro sequence where he rescues the girl, and then she ditches him in the car, and he goes this never happened to the other fellow.
This never happened to the other fellow.
That's the only kind of acknowledgement of the fact that he was not Sean Connery. And then interestingly enough, in 1971, Diamonds Are Forever came back, and they hired Sean Connery because George Lazenby did not do as well box office wise. I thought the movie was fine. I really love the skiing scenes in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think they're pretty cool. So anyway, yeah, poor guy. Let's make sure. Yep, George Lazenby. He refused to sign a contract for 6 more Bond films. Interesting. I had advice that James Bond was over anyway. It was Sean Connery's gig, and being in the 60s, it was love, not war, hippie time, and I bought into that. So actually, it was his mistake. All right. Well, considering the Magna Carta was kind of a so-so, there are some bonus questions over here. So I'm going to go pick a bonus question out, and we will then create the answer, because I don't know whether to count the Magna Carta as correct or incorrect. So let's go see here. Okay, so I looked through these 5 extra questions, and actually I love them all, so let's just go ahead and answer all 5. We'll just make it an extra big episode. Here we go. Why is the sky blue? That is diffraction of light. It's the same exact reason why sunsets are kind of in the red-orange range. So the deal is that shorter wavelengths of light, which would be blues and purples, are scattered much more effectively by the upper atmosphere than is the longer wavelengths of light. And so during the day, when the sun is up above and it's kind of shining through the atmosphere and not directly onto the earth, it's scattering all around, and so the sky becomes blue because it's scattering everywhere. At night, when the sun is way down on the horizon and it's cutting through a lot of atmosphere, all the short stuff like the blue wavelengths and the green wavelengths and so forth, those get scattered out, and so the only thing that's left is the lower wavelengths like red and orange. I imagine if you could see infrared, sunsets would be amazing, because probably infrared just blasts right on through. So I can't see infrared, so unfortunately, but we'll see. Okay. Blue light is scattered in all directions by tiny molecules of the Earth's atmosphere. It's scattered northern. Yeah. That is the correct answer. Next up, what is the Copenhagen interpretation? Ooh, quantum physics, baby. So this was Niels Bohr and his ilk. They created this interpretation of quantum mechanics back in the 1920s that, had a lot of very specific types of interpretations. One of the major aspects of it was that the universe is statistical rather than deterministic, and that was like a major thing. There are other theories of quantum mechanics, most notably the many worlds theory, that hold that every single time any quantum action happens, there is an infinite number of, there's another universe that pops off in the different choices that are had. So there's this like infinite branching universe that's going on. But the Copenhagen interpretation says basically that there's one universe and that it's statistical, and that things like wave functions and so forth collapse as they are detected, measured, interact with other things. So it's a very specific interpretation of quantum mechanics. The Copenhagen interpretation is an expression of the meaning of quantum mechanics that was largely devised from 1925 to 1927 by Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg. Forgot to mention Heisenberg, but definitely correct in that. What is 2% thoriated tungsten, and what is it used for? Light bulbs? I think it's, I don't know. Tungsten is definitely used in light bulbs, so let's see. Ooh. 2% thoriated tungsten electrodes contain a minimum of tungsten, that they are the most commonly used for electrodes today and are preferred for their longevity. Thorium increases the electron emission qualities of the electrodes. So, I was almost right, but that wasn't quite right. It wasn't light bulbs, it's electrodes. But at least I was in the electronics realm of things, so that's good. Next question. Who designed the pyramid at the center of the Louvre Museum? Ooh, that would be I.M. Pei. I believe so. Oh, I.M. Pei. Quick, easy, got it. Okay. Final question, number 15. Who was the original captain in Star Trek? Ooh, I know everybody's going to think that was Captain Kirk, but that is not the case. It was actually Captain Christopher Pike. And he was in the pilot episode of Star Trek that was created by Gene Roddenberry. And that when it was picked up, and I can't remember the reason why, but the actor played Christopher Pike was not available, and or I believe it was CBS, the powers that be said that he was not allowed to be the captain, so they had to find another one. And Mr. Spock is still there. Majel Barrett is still there. She was number 1 in the original pilot, but they wouldn't allow her to have that kind of hierarchical position because, of course, it was very sexist back then. So anyway, but Captain Pike was the first. And interestingly enough, I believe at the end of the first season, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the end of the first season, there's a 2-parter called the Menagerie, where they basically they extracted the footage from the pilot and they created a 2-parter episode because they were basically out of money. And so since they were out of money, they were like, well, crap, how are we going to make 2 more episodes to end the season? Because, back then you had to make like 27 episodes a season. So it was very expensive and time consuming. So they're like, hey, we got this this episode that's already sitting in the can, so we can cut up the footage. And they created this thing where Spock, completely out of character, goes and like steals the Enterprise, and Captain Pike has been burned to a crisp so that you can't tell it's not the same actor, and he's inside this like box that comes around and it only can blink yes or no. It's amazing in this beautiful future world that they have. They don't have any kind of mind, like, attachment. But anyway, so they pulled 2 entire episodes out of the footage for that, plus a kind of a envelope story around it. So yeah, let me take a look. Okay, Captain Pike, played by Jeffrey Hunter in the original pilot The Cage, and that was the original name, and the Menagerie was the redo. Captain Pike is a character in the Star Trek science fiction franchise, so he has definitely made it to there. Okay, so drumroll. Let me check the answers and see what I got right and what I got wrong. Drumroll, please. Okay, so the answer is I got 3 wrong, 1 which means 11 correct, and 1 halfway correct. So actually, I think I did pretty good for that. Not too bad for 15 questions. Alrighty, I hope you liked the lightning round version, and let me know if you do, and definitely ask more questions. I love these like shorter questions because I can just give like really quick off the cuff answers and we can see how I do. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and make sure you ask questions in the comments or at drknowitallknows@gmail.com, and my wife will go ahead and find the good ones and she will ask them and I will do my best to answer them. Till next time, thanks.